Hello, friends. Welcome to Life by Shauna, my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and push the little button and you will find out when I put out a video if you want. I am so excited about what I'm going to talk to you about today. If you have been going along with me on this journey for the last 6 years or 7 years, I don't know, then you will really appreciate this story. I'm just going to get into it. So you guys know, I feel like my life has looked like Job's. um, I had this big vision, of when I was younger, when I started having a family and I started having these kids and the vision was like to create this amazing family that was, um, like I put all my eggs in one basket. You know what I'm saying? Like we homeschooled and we would go to all the homeschool conventions. And of course you go and you take the breakout sessions and trying to figure out how to like be a good wife and a good mom and how to homeschool your kids and all the things. And it's not like I had a plan B, It's not like I had a career, even though the kid's dad and I had a health and wellness business and it was great. That was more his thing. And so it's not like I had like some sort of career that I got validation from or that I felt, um, you know, whatever. I got something else from it. Like my thing was my family. And so the process of, when the kid's dad had brought up wanting to practice polygamy and wanting other wives, I'm like, he's like, I understand this isn't what you signed up for, but it was kind of like my way or the highway. So it's like, this is where I'm going to press in and push through and we're going to have a testimony. And, of course that didn't happen. He just stayed on that course. And so then I ended up getting a divorce and all my kids, my older kids, as they started getting older, they all started moving away. I had Texas, Arkansas, Florida, opposite places. And so, it left me feeling like, wow, like I gave it my all and it wasn't good enough. It left me feeling like I failed. Like I tried really hard and I failed. But it's like, what do? You just, so, I mean, we're in a battle, right? Like we're all in a battle. It's a spiritual warfare battle. And the devil is always looking for who he can steal, kill, and destroy from. And there's wounds. There's real battle losses and wounds. And I'm like, that's just something that happened. That happened to me. And then as time went on, of course I get a divorce. I'm single. I starting a business. And my business started going good. And then of course I met my husband, who is the most wonderful thing the Lord could have given me. I mean, he is just all things good. And I started seeing my life get put back together. The things that mattered to me get brought back into my life. And, we got married and then slowly my kids have started moving back. And so now I'm in a place where all my kids are in town and I have this amazing relationship with my husband that I only thought was possible like in movies or books, because it just seems like so many people have struggles, and the Lord just blessed us. And so Anyways, and so after we got married, you guys know this, if you've been following along, we started praying for a house, because we're like, we need a bigger place. And also there was that part of us, there was that part like, I'm not really a neighborhood girl, and neither are my kids. But TG was kind of going that direction too. He's like, I'd rather be out a little ways. At the time that we met, I lived in a little farmhouse in the middle of the country, and it was wonderful and peaceful. And so we started praying, and you guys have followed me along that path, even though I haven't done my video about how I got the house yet. It's coming. Anyways, one of the things on our list that we felt like God had said, like, write a list of what you want. And one of the things I had wrote was, because there's a lot of stuff we wrote, and we were specific on a lot of things. And one of the things I wrote was, I wanted a house that would fit a 10-foot table. And so the whole idea of a 10-foot table, I feel like, even though maybe to some people you might hear like a 10-foot table and be like, oh, that's like such a maybe a superficial thing, like it's just an item, right? For me, my desire for a 10-foot table goes back years and years. Back when my good friends Stan and Sherry owned Quixote, and they got these amazing 10-foot tables in that were made from 100-year-old Indonesian bridge. Like, they were so awesome. And we didn't have a house to fit one at the time, and I was always like, I'm gonna have one of those 10-foot tables, because like I could use it. Like, I would actually be someone who actually used all the space. And they were going out of business, I remember, and they had 3 10-foot tables left, and they'd been marked down a lot. And I told I told the kids' dad, we need to buy one. And we had been looking for a house for ourselves at that time, and no house would fit that we had looked at would fit a 10-foot table. Because I'd always look. I'm like, we'd look at a house. I'm like, will this fit a 10-foot table? No. And he thought I was crazy for wanting to buy this. Like, we hadn't even found a house yet, let alone seen any houses that would fit it. And I'm like, the Lord knows I need a 10-foot table, so the house that we get is going to fit a 10-foot table. So we bought it, put it in storage, and sure enough, when we got our house by the river, it fit perfectly. It looked like it was like made for the house. So it was always kind of a thing for me, and I do a lot of hosting. I have lots of things at the house, and I have a lot of family. And so anyway, so fast forward, when I was going through the divorce, I was like, I don't need the table because I'm not going to have the house, and my kids had already started moving away, and even the younger ones were like, we're going to move out. We're going to move to Texas too. And I'm like, my needs are different, and I'm single, and I was thinking, I very well will never get married again, because like marriage can be tough, and I could have plenty of fun and be busy enough with my girlfriends and my friends and my all my kids, my family. So, but once I got married again, I was like, I want a place with that would hold a 10-foot table again. So fast forward, we have been praying, of course, for the last 4 years for this house, and that we have now. And so when we found the house, we knew it was the one. Like, it is so obvious that this is the house that the Lord has had for us, and it meets all these things that were on the list, except like when I measured the dining room, I'm like, oh, like, that's weird. Like, all these things we've prayed for, it won't fit a 10-foot table. I'm like, maybe like an 8, maybe a 9, but not a 10. I'm like, that's fine. Like, maybe we just don't need that. Although in the back of my head, I'm like, God is not subject to time, right? Time is a dimension that we are subject to, but not God. And so I felt like, like if I pray something, God knows I'm going to get this house. When it was built 40 years ago, he could be like, hey, just make the room an extra foot bigger. But I'm like, whatever. Like, this is the house, like, super happy about it. So put a little pin in that. So a couple years ago, some friends of mine had opened a shop here in town, and handmade these beautiful, beautiful cabinets, beautiful furniture. They had in their store these beautiful 10-foot tables. Okay. Like the style that I like, kind of rough and very quality, very heavy, and from like reclaimed wood. And it's him and his sons do it as a business, and I'm friends with the wife, the family. And anyway, so when they opened one day, TJ and I were out. I'm like, hey, I want you to meet my friends who opened this shop. And guess what? They have 10-foot tables. And of course, this is a couple years ago, so like before we found our house. But I'm like, I love these tables. One day I'm going to have one of these tables. And so, or I want one, And so we went in, and her husband happened to be there that day. And her husband and TJ just hit it off. And, when you meet this guy, he's just sunshine. He's just, you could tell he loves the Lord. Like, it is pure sunshine. And he was talking to TJ about this coffee table he'd made. Okay. And the wood was from a boxcar train that helped expand the West pre-Civil War. So just the wood in it was like, it's like 300 years old. Like the rings on the wood, oh my gosh, it's amazing and super expensive. and so when we left the store, TJ's like, well, guess what my favorite piece in the whole store was? And I'm like, a 10-foot table? The 10-foot table? He's like, no, it's that coffee table. I'm like, okay, at least mine's practical, And he's like, if we ever hit it big, like, I don't know, lottery or whatever, he's like, I want that coffee table. I'm like, okay, if you get the coffee table, I get the 10-foot table. Anyways, so fast forward to Christmas Eve, wait, not Christmas, New Year's Eve day. So I made my last video on that day. But this story wasn't complete yet. Okay. So, anyways, I find out, their cabinet making and furniture making had taken off a lot, and they didn't, have the need for a storefront anymore. So they were closing it down and selling the things that were in the storefront. There are 4 things: a 10-foot table, an 8-foot table that I wasn't crazy about the style of it. It was like, more like modern looking, like sleek lines and stuff, and 2 coffee tables. The one that TJ had liked from before, and then this other one that I liked, but I just didn't know if it would fit in the house, and the price, all the stuff. So, I mean, I can make this story real long, but I'm trying to cut it down. So me and Wendy go back and forth, and I'm like, man, I wish that 10-foot table, I could fit it. My house at best could do 9-foot. And so she gets back with me, and at this point, this table had been marked down a ton. So we're talking like a third of the price. And so she gets back with me. She's like, hey, the guy said they could actually cut it down to 9 feet, and we will give you a little bit better of a deal. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I call TJ, and I'm like, what do you think? And he's like, oh, I don't want to spend the money. And then he just, something changed, and he's like, and later when we were talking, he's like, it's like a switch flipped. And he's like, I knew there was no way no was coming out of my mouth. He's like, is this your dream table? I'm like, yeah. He's like, then get it. I'll never be able to get your dream table at this price. So I said yes. And I'm like, don't cut it yet. Don't cut it down, because like, maybe if it sticks out, let me see what it looks like in the house. I go downstairs, And I don't know how this happened, how I missed this, but the table I have now, which is 6.5 feet, has 2 chairs on each side that the arms don't go under the table. And I measured from the end of one chair to the end of the other was 10 feet. Like, it fit in my dining room the whole time. No clue. I don't know how I missed it. Even the rug that goes under it is longer than that. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting my table and I get the whole 10 feet. Like, it all fits. Oh my gosh. So I'm just like, ah. And then, you know, we go back and forth a little bit. She's like, hey, I still have the square coffee table left. And I'm like, I know TJ was already like, you know, we just bought the table and you know, I'm like, I can sell the other tables I have and that will help the price, you know, out of pocket for us. And I'm like, I don't know if he'll want to do that. She's like, well, this is what I can give it to you for. And so we came up with the idea because her whole shop had to be empty that night. And they were already coming to our house with the 10-foot table. And so we were like, it's got to go out anyways. Let's just put it on the trailer with the table. And then, because one thing about it was like a different style is really low. And we weren't sure like how that would look in there. I'm like, we could just, if it's on the thing, then we could just see what it looks like. Maybe we'll love it. Maybe we won't, you know, but you know, it's an option. It's an idea. And so they brought it over and, anyways, they brought it in. It's so funny. It's so heavy. And, afterwards the guys were like, I was sure hoping that Shauna wasn't making us move it in there. And then, and then TJ wouldn't want it. So, anyways, we get it in there. TJ loves it. And, so long story short, we bought them both. Okay. And, it took a little bit. I was selling a buffalo rug to buy a smaller rug. And, I'm like, I have someone who's already said they want to buy it. So I'm like, I can get a buffalo rug any day, like down the road. I'm like, we can never get a coffee table that's like this again. So he's like, sold. He's like, we got the table. And, so anyways, so that was New Year's Eve day that this happened. So that night, we didn't have the kids and we are in shock and awe. We're like, oh my gosh, especially for it being like the last day of the year. Like, this is the year that, if you guys remember last year when I had made a video, I was like, TJ had said, all these things have come back to you. All of these things have been restored to you, except the house. He's like, you know, you're going to get a house next. I'm like, well, I know we're praying, but I'm wondering when, you know. And we got the house the last day of the year. This idea of the whole family being at the table and having the space for it, it all gets wrapped up that day. And we get this coffee table, TJ's dream coffee table. And we're just like sitting there. We're like, you know, we just are going to stay in the rest of the night. We decided to get takeout Thai food. We came back and ate it, like looking at our coffee table. We're like, I can't believe this just happened. When we woke up today, did not think this day was going to end like this. So amazed. But here's where it gets good. I mean, that's already good. Okay, that's already good. But it gets better. So start of the new year, the next day, January 1st, I decided to start the Bible through in a year again with Tara Lee Cobble on my little Bible app. And it goes, so, you know, I'm on day 3. It's January 3rd. And I'm listening to the Bible, and it's like the flood. You know, I know the flood story so well. I mean, even those years that I'm like, I'm going to read the Bible through like front to back, and then you don't, but you at least get through Genesis. Like, you know, the flood story, like everyone's heard it. Like, anyway, so, but I'm listening. You think there's never, you know, oh, surely there's always something new. Okay. 'Cause it's the Lord. Um, and so I'm listening, and I heard something I've never heard before. And guys, this is blowing my mind. Um, but then it gets even better than that. So I'm listening, and he said, he's talking about the rainbow. He goes, I put a rainbow in a sky as a reminder that I will never destroy the earth again with water. And then he goes a few more sentences, or a sentence, he says something else. And then he says it again, so that when the Lord God looks down from heaven and sees it raining day after day, he will see the rainbow and remember that he said he would never destroy the earth with water again. And it hit me God needs a reminder? Is that not a weird thought to anyone else? And I've never seen it before, that God needs a reminder. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is blowing my mind. And then because how it is with God, sometimes you just get an instant download. And I just remember all these things in the Bible that are put as reminders, more like reminders to us, but hey, go camp for a week to remember how I brought you out of Egypt. Jacob wrestles with God all night and builds something as a reminder. That's where he wrestled with God and saw God. Even communion, so many places are put forth as reminders. And then, sorry, it just gets a little emotional. And then he said, that table you just got is a reminder to you. Every time you see that, it's a reminder that I have restored everything that you lost before. I heard every prayer. I saw all the tears, and I've restored everything back to you. And then he said, and that coffee table is going to be a reminder. Every time you see it, it's going to be a reminder that I do exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask or think. I'm not crying, you're crying. Oh my gosh. I mean, if that is not a mic drop from heaven, I don't know what is. And oh my gosh. And what's funny is I thought when I got the house, that was the full restoration, because that was the big deal. I wasn't even thinking about the table. I'm yeah, I want a table. I want a bigger table eventually sometime, whatever. But I wasn't even thinking about that. But God knew how that's always been a big deal to me. And how I wanted to be able to fit that in my new house. I didn't even think I'd be able to. And then boom, I'm able to. I don't know how I saw it before. Didn't see it before. And so I couldn't wait till TJ got home and I shared it with him. And I think it's so cool that for both of us, the big thing I wanted was this 10-foot table. But that wasn't even as much of a big deal to him. The thing that he thought was really cool was that, and just kind of out of reach, was that coffee table. And then to see God bring it all together in one day on the last day of the year, and then say that they were reminders of basically God's goodness, his mercy and grace. It's incredible. It's been incredible. This has now been 2 weeks ago, and I'm still every day, I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm oh my gosh, he did it. Wow. So anyways, and I hope that speaks to you guys. I am just blown away by it. And anyways, you guys have heard my story. If you followed me from the beginning, I hope that you are just excited for me as I am. You know, it's hard to meet someone like at this stage in life where I'm like, oh my gosh, God's doing this and God's doing this, and like, wow, and you know, all these great things. Like, he has answered all these prayers. Um, you know, it's a little different, like meeting someone. Like, almost don't want to share it all, because I'm like, man, this is just could come across as a little weird. But if you know the whole story, it's been a Job story. I lost it all, almost all, and I've gained it all back. I've gotten it all back. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this story. Love y'all. Let me know what you think. Have a great day.